I'm back yet again breaking down another team's finish. Today I'll be breaking down the Cleveland Guardians finish on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. And you can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you may listen. And also, too, if you want a little bit more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, check us out on Subtext and become a member of the Diamond Club. You can get started this season with big returns on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, guys, sorry about the little cold open with the I forgot I was completely live. Welcome to another live show. Sorry that I didn't really announce it or haven't announced any of them that I've done. They kind of spur of the moment. It's just a matter of what my schedule looks like. Let's put it this way. If you're an everydayer and you are someone that, listens pretty often, if I don't have an episode for you in the morning, or Dom doesn't have an episode for you in the morning at 6:30, then expect for us to be on YouTube live probably around this time, if not later in the night. It's a little bit more up to our discretion and our availability of our schedules. But sometimes things just don't work out, so we want to get out and, still provide you with the content. And, why not? Let's go live, come hang out. So, just look out for that, There'll be a little notification. Hey, if we don't put out an episode that early in the morning, probably coming on YouTube live. So let's get into it. We're talking Cleveland Guardians today, and, they had a really good season. They finished 92-69, obviously made it through the playoffs, got all the way up to my Yanks, and then got smackety-dackety down, back to earth, and ultimately did not finish off, obviously going to the World Series, but, AL just couldn't finish it, Yankees, and couldn't make the, World Series push. So, hey, it is what it is. I look at it like this. This team, honestly, in my opinion, at least overall, I don't think should have gotten as far or had the record that they did. Jose Ramirez was truly the driving force of this team. Other players contributed. And, with that, it kind of was just like a perfect storm. But, ultimately, the team as a whole really didn't impress me all that much. And, again, I couldn't see them finishing where they were at the end of the day. But let's break down the players. Let's get into fantasy. What are my expectations for 2025? What do I think of, 2024, and kind of break it down? And Jose Ramirez is another one. If you saw the thumbnail, is Jose Ramirez really the number 2 third baseman now that Gunnar Henderson has emerged as a force? And it's, I guess, a matter of opinion and a matter of, what you really feel is his upside. He's going to be 32 this season in 2025. Is what he did repeatable? And let's go over what he did, right? So 620 at-bats, 114 runs, 39 doubles, 2 triples, 39 home runs, 118 ribs, 41 stolen bases. Had a great walk to strikeout ratio, 54 walks to 82 strikeouts, batted .279, a .335 OBP, a slug of .537, and an OPS of .872. So this is one of his better years for home runs, definitely the best it's been in 2 years. I'm pretty excited about it. That 2022 season was absolutely bonkers with 44, and obviously a career year. And I love the fact that the stolen bases are up as well. But actually, I apologize. I was reading the wrong stat. This is a career year for his home run numbers. He's matched it his 2018 season. But the stolen bases is definitely a career year at 41. But, what is actually his floor? What do we expect from him? So Jose Ramirez definitely should be at least a first-round pick. I think it's pretty much just locked in stone for me. He's somebody that's safe, returns every single year, the same value that you have. So that's why I'm saying, hey, I'm going to pick him in the first round. But am I picking Gunnar Henderson over him? I guess is the question. And I'm probably going to go with the youngster. The upside is there. The team I feel is better. The floor of counting stats I feel is a little safer with Gunnar. But Jose Ramirez I feel is like a later round, first round pick that I feel a little bit more comfortable, obviously over the other options at the position, truthfully. But you got to kind of just, have that expectation. When is Father Time going to catch up? Clearly not this season. And let's look at the underlying stats to see if we can kind of predict anything for next year, right? So we're breaking it down. We start looking at what Jose Ramirez really has done in the underlying stats. And X WOB is fine, X batting average is fine, X slug is fine, but the average exit velocity is down just a tad. This year was 89.2. The year before was 90 miles an hour. You look at the previous year as well. Launch angle was sitting at 36.8% in 2023. 2024, that thing's down to 34%. Bat speed is pretty much down too. That's getting a little slowed up, but he's not whiffing. He's not striking out. He is chasing a little bit more. So it's just things to kind of pay attention to. I'm not saying like, hey, there's no shot at him you know, returning value essentially, but you just gotta kind of just take it like this. I'm going to still rely on him. I still think he's going to be a fantastic talent, but at the end of the day, there is that risk that Father Time might catch up. I don't foresee him busting out this year, but we might see a lower end season and definitely not a repeat of this year. If we can get what he did in, even 2023, right, where he had, you know, 24 home runs and 28 ribs and 282. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, it's not, wonderful, first round talent kind of option, but it's still elite and somebody that you can count on. That's why I'm saying he's more of on the latter half of the top, the first round, essentially. Pick like 10, 11, 12. That's where I'll start considering, or even if he falls into the first pick of the second round, I definitely wouldn't be mad there either. But he definitely showed that he's still got juice and that he's still going to drive the team. So, I'm all about it in so many different ways. Let's get into it. Um, you know, it's just really just a matter of, is it repeatable? And it is what it is. But let's move on. I want to talk about another player here. I'm going to switch positions on this a little bit, and I'm going to go to Tanner Bybee. And Tanner Bybee had a very like up and down season. He was somebody that I was going in really high, and kind of was like, okay, like I think that this is the year we start seeing him start breaking out after the 2023 campaign. And there were some bright spots, but also too some not some great spots. He was very up and down depending on the month that you actually were starting him essentially, and it was definitely a tale of two halves as well. I believe. You look at what the ERA was in the first half at 377, where he was still getting blown up a little bit through 105 innings, and then the second half it was a 301, and he really figured it out. So you look at it too, like the month of June he had a 10 ERA, the month of May he had a 5.67 ERA, but opened up pretty well in the first month, looking real great and strong. And then he had a brilliant month in July. Again, fell back a little bit in August to a 6 ERA, but that's like, a start or two that would blow it up. But then also a 3.44 ERA in September, October. So very like up and down in terms of, what his production is. But the season numbers were fantastic. If you drafted him, you were still happy with it, right? 173 innings pitched, 187 strikeouts. He had a 3.47 ERA to finish the season and, a 1.11 whip at the end of the day. Like those are great stats. Obviously, he's just not an SP1. And I don't think that he's been elevated to that. So I'm not ready to anoint him. Just still an SP2. I'm excited to see where I'm going to land him in terms of, where I'm going to have him ranked essentially. Because this year I had him ranked as like, I think around like the 18th or 19th overall SP. I think that is probably where I'm going to have him again. But, things kind of just are a little bit better this year. You look at what was going on from last year to this year, and his fastball kind of teared off and got a little bit more flat. His breaking pitches pretty much stayed the same, but you see that the fastball is something that really stayed flat, and that really, I think, affected it. When you look at how often he throws that four-seam fastball, he threw it about 43.4% of the time, really relies on that. And if it's flat, it's going to cause some, blow-up games. It was getting hit about, batting average of 282. So when you start looking at, okay, that's your pitch that you lean on the most. That is the pitch that people are looking. And also, too, that's the pitch that, has the potential to go out the park, right? That's what every hitter is looking for. So, you know, you just got to essentially take him and kind of say, okay, look, what is Bybee's expectations for next year? If he can get the movement back on that fastball, I think we see, 2023. I think that we can see that elite where I say, okay, I'm ready to anoint him and be that for like, be an SP1 going into 2026. But I think he's still worth drafting as an SP2. I totally trust him, hands down. He's going to be phenomenal. Definitely the best pitcher on this team. So for sure, I love Tanner Bybee, just not as an SP1. Coming up next, we're going to go over like Josh Naylor's season, Andres Jimenez. What do I think about Stephen Kwan? I'm going to get some hate for that. But that's all coming up next. Get ready to tackle this NFL season with action with FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your bets live on the NFL on all in one place. So when you have a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, so much more from the same page. You can place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this offseason unfolds, rely on our dynamic content. Get all our rankings from redrafts, dynasty, prospect, sleepers, breakouts, busts, and it's going to be a little bit more than what we offer on this show too, because you'll kind of get like a collective, right? Hey, like this is what Dom and I agree on. But you'll actually get to see, okay, who we actually feel are going to be a bust, who are our sleepers and our breakouts and our busts and our values and things like that. And that's going to set you apart from just seeing what the common analysis of what everybody else gets to see. Plus, you get to ask us questions. So check us out on there. Links in the description below. But let's get back into some baseball and let's talk, right? And I'm pretty excited, to talk about Josh Naylor. He had a good season, and by surprise, for me at least, I really didn't foresee a consistent season like this, but hey, he was able to really drive it home this year. 563 at bats, 84 runs, 27 doubles, 31 bombs, 108 ribs, 6 stolen bases, and batted 243. The 243 doesn't even upset me because of the home run power that he offered, and truthfully, to expect a 300 batting average from a guy that's really only done it essentially once is, not, you're setting yourself up for disappointment essentially. But at least, you know what, he was able to show off that power that we all knew he had, and be consistent and play a full season. This is the first time he's had over 450 at bats in a single season. He's now, I think, kind of solidified himself there, and I think he's going to be a good fantasy asset for next year. In terms of like, or I'm going to have him ranked in such as at the position in for first base and outfield. It's probably on the lower end. I think at first base, probably about like anywhere from 12 to about 7. It's going to be a wide range. Again, I haven't sat down in the rankings. I'm in the process of now getting started, so look out for that. But at the outfield position, he's definitely going to be lower, probably like 36 to 24 range. Like an OF3, if not like an OF4. Depending on how things go. I mean, the outfield position has definitely gotten deeper after this year, so I feel a little bit more confident in a lot of names. So you just got to see exactly where he's going to land. But he's going to be a great fantasy asset for you, and honestly for the Guardians as a whole. So, Josh Naylor is somebody that like I definitely want to target in drafts in 2025 and pretty much just start going in the way of getting there. So, let's get that going. And let's talk about Andres Jimenez. He had another one that had a pretty good season. Jimenez is definitely hasn't lived up to the expectations that Dom and I thought he had, but still is a good fantasy asset that you're really not going to have to pay a wild amount for. Second and short eligibility, depending on the platform, and how many games I played at each. I don't have that in front of me, so that one of those might be gone at the end of the year, start of next year. But he had 583 at bats, 64 runs, 22 doubles, a triple, 9 bombs, 63 ribs, 30 stolen bases, and batted about 252. Right, like these are like man numbers, but what I like is the stolen bases. I like that he didn't completely hit in the garbage can and was still able to produce. He's not somebody I'm going to be excited to start week in, week out, but he might be somebody that I might take on the upside play if this team can take this as a stepping stone and move forward and continue to be this good. There might be more options. All he's got to do is get a little bit more on base and things can kind of click for him in terms of the runs category. And then I won't be as mad. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe the ribbies aren't there, but if he can get about like 20 to 25 more runs and literally keep the stat line the same, we're looking at him in a whole nother light at second base. So honestly, like, and I think it's in the cards for him. So as long as he can just get that up, get the OBP up and just get there, I think that my guy can definitely produce and be somebody, but I'm definitely not taking him as like my, top 10, even 11 second baseman. He'll be probably my last of my Hoogans, probably like anywhere from 14 to 12 in terms of second base rankings. It's kind of where I'm already kind of mapping it out and trying to see where I think I'm going to fit him. And that's where I think he's going to be. And, it's not atrocious in the deeper leagues, 14, 16, 15 man leagues. That is probably where you're going to be, okay, I have to start him. But he's going to be a great corner infield start and things like that. I don't think he's somebody we're going to want to pass on because of that, at least that like that upside of the run, which then would make him a different player. So Andres Jimenez, I'm all about. So 2025, it's going to be interesting. Let's move on to this next guy, and I'm going to throw a lot of hate this way. So, I'm already ready to get the booze, and let's get it started off because I won't be surprised here at all, if I start getting some hate in the comments. But Steven Kwan, I don't see the allure of drafting him in fantasy game, in fantasy in a fantasy platform at all. He's good for stolen bases, is what I keep hearing, but he only had 12 this year. He had 14 home runs. He had 44 ribs. He had 83 runs. That's wonderful. And he batted .292. So essentially, I got a decent amount of runs. I got good batting average and then mediocre, counting stat numbers. Whatever. For me, this isn't somebody that I'm happy to draft. For me, it's just like whatever. I've never really been a believer in this dude. And even in the doubles kind of collapsed. You could have at least counted on that in 2023 where he was a little bit more valuable in that aspect. At least he broke 20 stolen bases. Now, I understand he had about 200 less at-bats than the year before, but still, 20 more at-bats, and truthfully, he had 500 at-bats, and that's almost a full season in terms of, like, workload. Obviously not a guy hitting out, like, the 1-2 hole, but still, played 122 games. I feel like the pace should have been a little bit better than what he had. And, that value comes down. Now, even if he plays a full season, let's add the 38 games, right? Which again, I don't foresee him playing, or even let's add the 36 games to make it the same as last year. The pace tells you he'll probably get 90 to 95 runs. The home runs, maybe 17. Ribs probably finish exactly the same, but the stolen bases, I don't know. That pace is not telling me telling me he's getting it. He's not. He's crossing 20 stolen bases. The batting average is just fine. So I'm not really seeing the allure. He's not a sexy pick. He's not a guy I want to walk away with my OF 3 or 4. If there's other options, I'll totally take it because I want the upside, especially out of my 3 and 4 kind of outfielder. And I'm not looking for a consistency. I'm looking for a guy that might, be the difference maker down the draft. So Kwan is somebody that I feel is kind of like that, like pull the ripcord safety kind of type pick that everybody kind of seems to live on, that kind of is in love with and enamored with. But I just don't see it. Again, like there's a draft method and an ideology of how I go about things, and I don't foresee him being a valuable asset for anybody in fantasy baseball at this point. I think he's a great streamer and mid-year pickup or a later round pick. Then I feel a little bit better about it, but I'm just not going for him at all this in 2025, and I'll continue to say it every single year until he proves me otherwise. But yeah, guys, coming up next, we're talking about Lane Thomas, Kyle Manzardo, Gavin Williams, and what the heck happened to Tristan McKenzie. Coming up next. Okay, guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, which we all want, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is charging men's healthcare by changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch, which makes things a little bit easier. Hims provides you access to a range of doctors' trusted ED treatments with like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and the generics for up to 95% cheaper, which, yeah, cheaper is better. The process is 100% online, so you have no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions and on the site, and medical provider will determine the right treatment opinion options for you. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in a discreet package for free, which, yeah, I wouldn't want something saying, hey, Woody pills. So no insurance is needed, and one low price has covered everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims helps you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked on. That's HIMS.com/locked on for your EDs, for your personalized ED treatment options. The product mentioned are chewable compound products, which are not approved by, verified for safety, effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if it's appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan. For most of us, like collecting cards, the idea of spending 2 grand or more on, a Luca or an LE or even a Mahomes rookie card just really isn't in the cards. Yeah, wordplay. I love collecting, but some of the serious money, you could drop some serious money on this, and it just it's one of those things where I just prefer an alternate option. And thanks to slab packs on arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of the price, a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I list was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Area Club is the only repack that provides a real value, a complete view of all possible cards and clear hits for each one. Area Club slap packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your polls are revealed, they are immediately be placed in a showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auctioning. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent. With a full grade, rational provided an explanation of how your card was scored. Right now on you can save up to 10% on slap packs or your card purchase by going to areaclub.com/locked on and use the code locked on, and areaclub.com/locked on, code locked on MLB for 10% off your first purchase. And okay, we are back. I'm excited to finish out this show here. And hey, let's talk about it, right? Actually, I'm going to jump around a little bit. I know I said Lane Thomas was up next, but I do want to talk about Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams is somebody that I honestly thought was going to have a better season. He did everything right in 2023 and, was really able to course correct at a certain point and was like, hey, I am the pitcher that everybody saw in the minors, and I'm ready to take that step. Anoint me, please. And it just didn't happen. It didn't come together. It didn't come to fruition in 2024 whatsoever. 76 innings pitched, 79 strikeouts, a 4.86 ERA, and a 1.36 WHIP. It's fugly. And his FIP was a 3.67, which is fielding independent pitching. So if you had an average defense behind you, this would be your FIP. I mean, this would be your ERA. And it was a 3.67, which is definitely better. It's about a whole run better. But still doesn't make me feel good about it. I'm just not happy that I didn't see it out there. I think he will be a value next year. I think people are going to, want to avoid him since, you drafted him at a pretty reasonable, actually you really didn't, because he started off the season hurt. I forgot about that. So, maybe that played into part of why it just never really came to fruition. But I will tell you this, the fastball velocity was sitting really nice at 96.6 miles an hour. Everything else was kind of ugly, but I will give him the pass. I will be trying to grab him as a value next year, and I will be drafting him almost everywhere. let's just hope that, you know, things kind of just play out better. But hopefully the ADP and draft price is just a little bit better than what we would have saw if he was healthy going into the season. So Gavin Williams upside for next year, I think, could possibly be somewhere around what he did in 2023. Obviously, with more innings and probably a 3.5 ERA with, similar strikeout numbers, but the upside for Gavin Williams could be significantly higher in the strikeout category. Through his minor league career, he's always finished about 20 strikeouts more than his innings pitched, except for 2023. Um, so you just got to look at it like this. Hey, man, the upside is there, and you could take it as you will. But if he does decide to unleash the potential, then we are all in trouble for whoever did not pick him. So Gavin Williams is somebody we need to target. Let's move on to Lane Thomas now. Lane Thomas, he had an all right and interesting season. I will say this, obviously across Washington and Cleveland season, but I would say it's a pretty decent season for him. Obviously, not what you expected. And I could have told you that because I was not drafting him anywhere this year, and rightfully so. You know, who believes in age 27 breakouts? Not me, not Dom. So, hey, here we are. But it still was a decent season, better than I thought we would be because of the stolen base numbers at 32 stolen bases. That was great. But the batting average was in the toilet at 237. The run production was at 65. And the home run numbers were atrocious at 15 in comparison to the 28 he had the year before. And everybody was banking on that power. So when it comes to Lane Thomas, how am I handling him for 2025? Well, I will say this. He definitely did not have as good of a season on when he got to Cleveland. But, you know, my rule of thumb is when anybody goes to a new team, they get a little bit of a pass. Now, do I think he's going to be able to have a full season and be a fantasy star award like we saw in 2023? Absolutely not. I think this season is kind of a baseline with, I think, better batting average, probably more around like the 240, 250 range, I think is more realistic for him. I think the power numbers, I don't think are going to sniff 28. I don't even think it's going to sniff 25, probably more around the 2021 range. But with the way Cleveland Guardians play, he might have better runs and Bibee potential. So I like the upside for that. In terms of points, points leagues, I really am not trying to draft him whatsoever. Um, you know, he struck out a lot in comparison to total walks. He had only walked about 44 times and struck out 137 times. That's really going to kill you, but he did manage to crank up, 26 doubles, but still not enough to make up for all those strikeouts. So you probably had more negative outputs than you did positive outputs in a week. So Lane Thomas is a complete avoid for me next year. And it is what it is. Now let's talk about Tristan McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie was coming off a UCL sprain going into this last year. And coming into this year, he opted not to get the surgery, rehab it, and here's the results. And it isn't pretty. Tristan McKenzie finished with 75 innings pitched, 74 strikeouts, a 5.11 ERA with a 1.55 WHIP. It is ugly, and the FIP is a 6.46. So it is not better. It did not help him whatsoever. And how much was the spring UC? Sorry, I'm saying UCLA like it's the chip, but the UC whatever the elbow. How much was the elbow playing into a part where he was, affecting it, and how much did he really need Tommy Johns? I think that I wouldn't be surprised if at some point during spring training we hear, okay, he opted to go get it, or we see a full blown bounce back and he's able to fix it in the rehab in the offseason again. Kind of course corrects it, and he's able to work his way out of the minors, or they give him a second chance in spring to try and make the team. And we'll see. It's all going to be a matter of that. We're going to find out a lot, I think, early when it comes to him reporting. And if he does manage to kind of figure it out in spring training and he's looking good, I'll obviously draft him. But at the same time, we're going to look at him and we're going to not pay a good draft price for him. If he's going higher than, SP7, I ain't touching him with a 10-foot pole because of the injury history, because of how many innings he's pitched in the past and how he's never been able to stay up on that mound is exactly why I don't think he's going to be worth it. He needs to prove it. And he's just been so fragile that he's just he hasn't earned the trust from me or I think the fantasy community at this point to be a starter or a SP2 or 3 where the talent puts him at. So Tristan McKenzie for me, I'm out on until we see otherwise. But for 2025, guys, thank you so much for being here. Glad that we had a decent showing on the live stream. There's nobody else left in here that I could see. No comments were made for questions. So with that, guys, I'm going to say please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, and do me a favor. Since you like us so much, check out my boy Sully over at Locked On MLB, breaking down all the offseason, free agencies, and so much more on Locked On MLB. But guys, thank you so much. Peace.